Welcome to our concluding part in this series we are taking in literature, which is figurative expression. So far we have had an exploration of 10 major figurative language. Now we want to add some more examples and illustrations in order to broaden your horizon and comprehension of this particular topic. Now the next figurative expression is rhetorical question. A rhetorical question is that question that is asked as a way of making a statement, not really because an answer is expected. Now, rhetorical questions do not really require an answer. They are statements that look like questions which are used to express the emotional feelings and circumstances of the speaker. For example, should we continue in sin so that grace may abound? That is a question, but that question is rhetorical because it does not require any answer. Who knows tomorrow? That does not also require any answer. Though it is a question, but it is used to explain and express some level of truth, some level of emotional expression of the speaker. Sometimes these expressions are usually done by raising a question, of which these questions do not have or expect any answers. Therefore, when rhetorical questions are raised, the speaker does not expect the listener to proffer or even suggest any response. The next figurative expression is pun. This is usually referred to as play on words. This entails that words that sound similar may be used in context to mean different things. Now, when we say that pun has been employed in a statement, we are simply saying that some words have been played on. Therefore, some words that may sound alike may be used in different positions in the same context to mean different things. For example, when it was 6 p.m., I told the catechist and the catechist told the bell. The first told in the expression is the past tense of tell, and the second told there is tolled, which means to strike a bell. So these words are used to sound alike, but they mean different things, and that is pun. Do not father the number of children you cannot father. The first father there has to do with the biological process of procreation. And the second father there has to do with the social function of a father, which means provision and providing for the children. On some ordinary parlance, it means don't produce the number of children you cannot take care of. So the first father means procreation, the second father means taken care of. But these words have been played on in expressions, and that is what we mean by pun. It is better to arrive late than to be late. The first late used in that statement means to arrive behind schedule or time frame. The second late there means, of course, the state of not being alive anymore. So you see how late has been used in the same context to convey different sensibilities. Anytime a word is used in this order, then it has been played on, and then the figurative language that is employed is known as pun. The next figurative expression is repetition. This is a figure of speech in which a word, phrase, or idea is expressed more than once in a piece of poetry or writing. This example is usually suitable in context situations. Now, when we say that repetition has been used as a figure of speech, it means that the poet, the novelist, or even the playwright has consciously repeated on several occasions words, ideas, or statements in several aspects. And also remember that the main emphasis or reason for repetition is to underline a strong point. When expressions or ideas are continuously repeated in a particular work of art, the writer is consciously foregrounding that idea in order to send home a message to the readers. So repetition has to do, just as the name implies in ordinary context, a situation where ideas, words, expressions, sentences, or even some constructions are continuously repeated more than once in any piece of writing. The next figurative language is litotes. Litotes is that figurative expression in which it purposely represents something as being less in importance than it really is. It is very important to know that the negator in English not is usually in context when this figurative language is employed. He is not a bad person. That is a litotes, because instead of saying he is a good person, it is said in a way using the negator to purposely represent something as being less in importance than really is. If you say something like, he is very good with money, but not in issues connected to women, that is also an example of litotes, because in order not to condemn the subject, a pleasant way is used to communicate its weakness in a way that will not appear very offensive. And then that will be an example of litotes. So litotes, therefore, usually conveys the negative expressions of people, and in some cases positive, using the negator to embellish and garnish the concept. The next figurative expression is metonymy. Metonymy is a figure of speech which refers to the substitution of one word or phrase to stand for a word or phrase similar in meaning. This is also the reference to something through another thing associated with it. Now, this may sometimes appear to be similar with personification, but we are going to differentiate them. I have not read any Shakespeare before. Now, the word Shakespeare or the name Shakespeare is used in that first expression simply refers to one of Shakespeare's plays. But you see that the name has been used to represent one of Shakespeare's dramatic texts. The White House shall visit Assonance tomorrow. White House there simply explains the seat of the American presidency, of which when we say the White House will visit Assonance, we are simply saying that the President of America will come to the seat of the Nigerian president. So White House and Assonance has been used respectively to talk about the American. Now, the next figurative language we are going to consider is metonymy. This figure of speech refers to the substitution of one word or phrase to stand for a word or phrase similar in meaning. This is the reference to something through another thing associated with it. Now, when we say that metonymy has been used in an expression, we simply mean that an object or an item, or perhaps a symbol, which represents another symbol or concept, has been used as a substitute to represent it. Now, the difference between metonymy and the subsequent figure of speech we will discover synodic is that in metonymy, the figure that is compared is external of the object. But in synodic, as we will eventually consider, it is the part of the whole that is used for expression. I have not read any Shakespeare before. The Shakespeare as used in this context, which is the name for William Shakespeare, represents all or one of Shakespeare's plays. So the speaker saying that he or she has not read Shakespeare before simply means that he or she has not read any of Shakespeare's work. Therefore, Shakespeare as a name has been used to relate to his plays. The White House shall visit Assonance tomorrow. The White House and Assonance, therefore, in that context, respectively talk about the seats of America and Nigerian presidency. When we say the Assonance is visiting, then we are talking about the visit of the American president. When we talk about Assonance, then we refer to Nigeria's presidency. That statement simply on local expression means that the President of America will visit the President of Nigeria. But we can see the seats of the governments of these two countries used to represent their leaders. These expressions will be said to be metonymy. The crown and the scepter shall not depart from your house. The crown and the scepter obviously are symbols of kingship and authority. When we say that the crown and the scepter shall not depart from your house, we are simply saying that kingship shall not go away from your household. So crowns and scepters are used there as external objects to talk about the concept of kingship. If we make a statement by saying that the bench is always a lucrative profession, the bench there simply talks about the law profession. So objects or items that are associated or external to an object can be used to explain or even express those items. Then this is metonymy. The next figurative expression is chiasmus. This is very unfamiliar. Chiasmus is the reversal of clauses or phrases in an expression in order to achieve emphasis. The 16th American President Abraham Lincoln, in one of his speeches, had said that Americans should not think of what their country should do for them always, but sometimes they should also think of what they should do for their country. Now we have seen the two clauses in the expressions being reversed to each other's places. Then you can say that chiasmus has been explored. Clean water cannot make dirty water clean, but dirty water can make clean water dirty. That is chiasmus because the expressions have been reversed. Kwame Nkrumah, the former president of Ghana, had one time said that he is not an African because he was born in Africa, but he is an African because Africa was born in him. That is also an example of chiasmus. Do not fear to negotiate, and do not negotiate out of fear. Anytime a statement containing two clauses are made and the reversal of these clauses replace each other's position, then the figurative language that is employed is chiasmus. The next figurative language is assonance. This figure of speech is a repetition of identical vowel sounds in a line of poetry or expression. Thou still unravished bride of quietness, let not ambition mock your useful toil. In those two examples, you can see that vowel sounds E in the first word as regards the second word, and then another vowel sound I, a diphthong though, has been used, and another diphthong quietness in the last word. In the second example, you will also agree that the underlying letters in those expressions are actually containing vowel sounds. Anytime a writer consciously repeats sounds, take note, sounds and not words in expressions, the figurative language is assonance. Antithesis is the next figurative expression. This term refers to the presentation of two opposite phrases or clauses in a sentence to indicate a balanced view. Most importantly, it places contradictory statements or ideas side by side in order to achieve emphasis. It is very important to know that the results that should be achieved in antithetical statements must always be contradictory to each other. The striking balance that differentiates an antithetical statement and perhaps an oxymoron is, in an oxymoron like we had earlier seen, words or lexical items are placed side by side even though they are contradictory to each other. But in antithesis, it moves beyond the level of lexis to talk about words or expressions, ideas, I beg your pardon. Man proposes, God disposes. These two expressions are antithetical to each other. Ours to plow, not to plunder. Plow to sow, plunder to destroy. they are antithetical or opposite to each other. To err is human, but to forgive is divine. Anytime antithesis is used in an expression, one thing should come to the reader's mind, that the two ideas or expressions which may be contained in a singular sentence are contradictory to each other. But in an oxymoron, words or lexical items are contradicting each other. So, antithetical statements as well as oxymorons usually look or frame in the picture contradictory expressions. But whereas oxymorons use words, antitheses use ideas or classes. Alliteration is the next. This is the repetition of consonant sounds in a sequence of words in a line of poetry or expression. Now this is a direct antithesis to an assonance. In assonance, do not forget that vowel sounds are repeated. But in alliterations, you see consonant sounds appearing in a sequence. Father Francis fried 5 fishes for 5 fathers from France. You can see the consonant, that is the voiceless labiodental fricative, being highlighted in every of the words. The fair breeze blew the white foam flew. That is also an example of an antithesis, and the consonant sounds are obviously underlined. In expressions that you notice a continuous repetition of consonant sounds, then you can say that such statement has been contained with alliteration. Allusion is the next figure of speech. It is a brief reference to an important person, what he or she said, did or stood for, and a place, an event, or a popular phrase or line. Allusion simply means making reference to things that are popular, which had obviously occurred in the past. People can make allusions or references to biblical incidents. Allusions can be historical. In some cases, they can also be social. Now, it is very important to know that in ordinary language, you can call allusion referencing. But the difference between referencing and allusion is that allusions must always be drawn from instances that are concrete and must have been done and dusted long time ago. When I refused, she gave me some money. Perhaps she thought I was a Judas. The word Judas there is biblical. It is coined from the biblical experience of Judas Iscariot with his master, Jesus Christ, which was believed that it was as a result of his love for money that made him to betray his master, Jesus Christ. So whenever the name is mentioned, Judas Iscariot, it is usually not unconnected to the love for money. I came, I saw, and I conquered. That statement is coined and referenced or alluded from a social incident of which Napoleon Bonaparte of France made when he had defeated his enemies. I am talking about specifically Britain. So you are seeing that these statements are always made. The die is cast, Achilles heel. All these things are referring or alluding to some mythological expressions that had done or happened in the past. Allusions are, of course, generally those references we make to events which may be historical that had happened. I love my father because he is a good Samaritan. That is also a biblical reference, because the Good Samaritan is in a parable coined by the Lord Jesus Christ, which means a person who loves giving help and assistance to people who need them. Allusions usually refer to these past incidents. The last figurative expression we are looking at is antonomasia. An antonomasia is that figure of speech that uses an already established place, person, or entity to describe an up-and-coming entity. Now, when an antonomasia is used in context, we are looking at two placements. The first will be an already established person, place, thing, or entity. And the second will be an and coming entity in that line. Now, J.J. Okocha is the Maradona of Africa. In the line of football, Maradona is an established footballer. But J.J. Okocha, perhaps being an up-and-coming footballer, can be used in line with comparison with that already established professional footballer. Wole Soyinka is the Shakespeare of Africa. It is without doubt that William Shakespeare has been the greatest dramatist that had ever lived. But we can see Wole Soyinka, a Nigerian playwright, used in that context, perhaps in an up-and-coming line, comparing him with William Shakespeare. Kano is the Mecca of Nigeria. Of course, we know Mecca is the seat of Islamic religion in Saudi Arabia. And Kano, being a state in the northwestern part of Nigeria, dominated by Muslims, could also be used as an up-and-coming place in line with Mecca as far as the Islamic religion is concerned. So antonomasia largely looks at the placement of two concepts. One of them is already established, known and popular, and the already other one is up and coming in that particular line. Now, having conclusively looked at these figures of speech, we have highlighted 21, of which is a very large number as regards this topic. As we will be treating a lot of poems, we shall be referring to these figurative expressions in order to promote its analysis, understanding of which it is very important for this lecture. Thank you very much for watching.